All right, guys, it's episode number 288, and we are on location once again. We're at Crystal Springs, beautiful Crystal Springs. Some of our favorite golf courses are here.
Yeah.
If you follow us closely on the YouTube channel, you've seen us play here before. We did our Ironman here most recently. We've even stayed here.
Did a family trip here.
We've done quite a bit here, so it's a great place. And the reason we're here is we just finished up another challenge that we did.
What are we calling it? Club Steel Challenge?
Something like that.
Okay.
I'll tell you all the parameters of it and how badly Mike beat me up in a second. But we had a lot of fun today. We did a match play. I put out a Twitter poll earlier on the Golficity account, which I want to talk about, just chatting about some of the areas where all of you out there where you feel like you need the most work on your game, because it'll also help to serve for some of the things that we want to do upcoming on the podcast, some of the topics that we want to talk about. And in fact, I also had a bunch of you guys DMing me. It's just saying different things that you were struggling with, areas of your game where you want to improve. So it serves as a good list of things that we can talk about here in the future. Before we dive into this really epic match that we had today, let's do a quick word from our sponsor and start it right off with Titleist. You guys may wonder what that TT stands for on our hat. You see that oftentimes we'll have the TT on our hat. Well, it stands for Team Titleist, and we're excited to share with you guys an exclusive opportunities from Titleist. But to be a part of them, you have to join Team Titleist. Here's the good news, though. It's 100% free to do so. Team Titleist gives you access to opportunities like prototype testing, which we saw when the Pro V1 was coming out. Special events like 5-iron golf, which we got to do recently.
That was fun.
That was a lot of fun. Also limited edition gear from Titleist and a lot more. Mike, like we said, that 5-iron golf was a blast, and it was something that just for being part of Team Titleist, you get those invites and you're able to get down there and try out some equipment, have a little bit of fun. There was a lot of fun there. And as I said, the prototype golf balls. A lot of you had asked how we got those unbranded kind of white packages like a couple months before the Pro V1 hit the market, and a lot of that is just because as you're part of Team Titleist, oftentimes they will send out product for you to demo and get it in advance of everyone else. So it's really cool. So sign up, join us on Team Titleist by going to www.titleist.com/Team Titleist. That's one word, Team Titleist. Definitely encourage you guys to check that out.
Yeah, for sure. And want to thank ShotScope as well. The ShotScope V2, here it is right here, wore them today. The world's smartest golf watch. We wear them every round, as you could see from pretty much every video that we've put out there. We always have them out there on course. They have roughly 40,000 courses, over hundreds of stats. This watch truly helps you both on and off the course. On because GPS distances, front, middle, back of the green, hazards, layups, things like that. But it's that data you get after the round. So when you sync it back up to your dashboard and you could see all the things like where you're missing, greens and regulation, proximity to the hole, I mean, you name it. I can go on. And it's like a keepsake for a lot of cool things, like if you got a hole in one, or if you flush that 320-yard drive.
Or when nobody believes you how far you hit it.
Exactly. Yeah. Now you have it in the ShotScope dashboard, so it's cool to have that there. So, guys, check it out. Join the revolution. All the data, it's right there at your fingertips. Get a ShotScope V2. It's $159. Just visit shotscope.com/Golficity. And lastly, just want to thank FootJoy, the #1 outerwear brand in golf. They ensure that you make every day playable with rain jackets for all weather conditions. New to the FootJoy Performance outerwear lineup this year is the new DryJoy Select LS. It's the lightest, most waterproof garment that FootJoy has ever produced, setting a new standard in rainwear. We wore them in Scotland.
I love it because it's so light. You put it right in the golf bag. It's ready. We didn't know today whether it was going to rain, so I had it in the golf bag. Yep.
Super light, super small. It folds up to nothing. It's amazing. It's lighter than a golf shirt, and it's waterproof. Yeah. So get that. So check it out. You could shop now at footjoy.com/MEDP for Make Everyday Playable.
And look, we know it. It's around the corner, man. Look at this weather. Today was the first cool day, really cool day. And if anybody lives in the Northeast or pretty much anywhere where you have these seasons, you know the grind that sets in of those last couple months to try to get as many rounds in as possible. And a big part of that is having the right gear. So it's really important. So let's jump into and talk about today's experience, because
Can I get comfortable here first?
Yeah, man, get comfortable.
I'm hunched over here. My back hurts.
We should light the fire.
Should we light the fire?
Yeah. No. So
I want to lean back a little. Okay.
This suggestion came from a couple of people in the YouTube comments. We had been having a lot of fun this year doing a few different challenges.
Yes.
And what we said was we put it out there and we said, if you guys have a challenge for us that you think would be enjoyable and whatever, and it would be fun to put a video out, let us know. And a bunch of you had suggested match play with a twist. So the way the twist works is very simple. If you win a hole, you would get the opportunity to steal a club from the other guy. And what it makes for is, you win early, which we'll talk about in a second. You get that advantage of starting to take clubs, and then it becomes harder to come back.
Right.
Now, later in the round, let's say you won the first hole, Mike, and you steal one of my clubs. I then have the opportunity, let's say I win the second. I have the opportunity to either steal my club back from you or steal one of your clubs. So you're working to earn your clubs back. So it was a lot of fun. In fact, I think one day we do a twist on it again, play it again, but say when you lose a hole, you get to steal from the other guy.
When you lose.
When you lose, thus giving yourself a better chance of coming back.
Okay.
I like that.
All right.
Because there was a point where it did feel, at least for me, like I was pushing a rock up a hill.
Yes.
Because to tell him what happened, Mike jumped off to a huge early lead. I think were you 3 up through 4 or 3 up through 5?
Yeah, so we pushed hole 1 and I won 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, okay, so they're 3 up through 4 holes.
Right.
And at that point you've already stole 3 of my clubs. Now, I don't remember exactly which ones, like what it was off the bat, but I remember somewhere in the mix, you had taken my driver, you had taken my 5-iron, my 6-iron, and now I'm playing at this deficit, trying to eke my way back, but without all the tools in my bag,
right,
for lack of a better analogy.
We saw you try to stretch 7-irons or try to take some off 4-irons.
Yeah. And you were smart. You played it real strategic because you were looking at the scorecard of what holes were coming up.
Right.
Because I had put out on Instagram the night before, and I said, we're going to do this challenge. If I win, what should I take? And everyone's like, well, take the putter. We said, we're going to take the putter off the table for the challenge. Because I said, you win the first hole, you take the guy's putter. Forget about it.
Right. Nobody's going to want the putter back.
Yeah,
it's not going to be as fun.
And what's the chances of winning a hole without your putter? It gets really difficult.
Right.
But right off the bat, you take a couple clubs off of me. And it's just like, again, the strategic part of it was like looking ahead, what it may be. Now, on the other side, we always say we do these things not just to have a little bit of fun out there, which golf that's what it's all about, is having fun, but also learning something. And man, did I learn today how important every club in my bag is. Wow.
You're absolutely right. And I didn't plan to take 5 and 6 at that one point, but when you brought it up, it was such a huge play because it left you with such that huge gap.
Yes.
So that was a smart play. I didn't think about it. I can't give myself credit for it. It just worked out that way, that I took 5 and 6. But if I'm going to do this challenge again against someone else, I think that's the play because now you're only working with a 4 and a 7.
Right. And you ended up with such a huge gap not having those 2 clubs. And then what was the real kicker was when you had my 5 and 6 and you took my driver, right? So now we played, a lot of the holes we played were anywhere between, the par 4s were between 370 and 425. Not having a driver and having to hit my hybrid or 3-wood off the tee, I ended up leaving myself a lot of these 180s in. And I had nothing to hit.
You had nothing to hit.
Right. And it was just, like I said, it was just so hard to catch back up. Especially, there was a couple of holes there that I definitely should have won because you were, whatever it was like a little bit of a struggle there. So you had a bogey or a double bogey. But I couldn't finish because I didn't have the club. So one was a par 3. I remember this. Par 3, 180 yards. I would normally be between my 5 and my 6-iron there.
Right.
I know I can't get a 7-iron to go 180. And I know a 4-iron is going to be very tough to land on a green, just trying to get only 180. Because a 4-iron for me is usually a 200 club, 210. So now I'm playing this par 3, and I remember that par 3. You missed the green. I'm like, it's wide open. All I got to do is put it on the screen, and maybe I can get a hole back. But I couldn't put it on the green with the 4-iron. And then the other one was, I think it was a par 5, and I already didn't have my driver. And then I ended up with my 3rd shot was like 180 out. Mm-hmm. And again, I have no 5 or 6-iron. So I'm like, shoot, what am I going to do? But although it was a challenge and it was frustrating at times, where I was excited was that I was learning as I went, and I thought about the pros, the PGA Tour pros, who, yes, they know their numbers exactly of how far they hit their clubs, but they're able to make their clubs do a lot more than we are. It's much more versatile. It's not like, I need my 8-iron for 150, and as soon as it jumps to 160, I need my 7-iron. They can change the trajectory, hit it high, hit it low, and they can stretch it out. I was not able to do that, and it proved the point to me that I need to stop relying on my clubs so much as a crutch and learn to hit them different ways.
That's a solid point. And I think I mentioned this to you out there. If you ever caught or watched one of these 14 club challenges on YouTube.
Yes, on the par threes, right?
Yeah, and if you don't know what it is, it's two club tour pros. I just watched one, Ricky Fowler and another European tour pro player. Basically, they just run through the bag. They're on a par 3. Let's say it's 150 yards out, and they have to hit every single club against each other. And once you hit that club, it's now out of play. The other guy can't use it. And the point of it, the point of me telling you this is because I watched the pros try to hit a 4-iron into 150 yard. Or they were hitting driver.
Yeah.
And they, believe it or not, these guys were hitting the green. So
Right.
they weren't able to hold the green. That was a different story. But they were able to hit the green or at least come close. Imagine hitting driver 150 yards and coming close. Well, that's what a tour pro will do.
Yeah.
And that goes to your point of learning how to hit the clubs differently.
I remember, I think I saw it actually in, what was it? Maybe it was one of Eric Anders Lang's videos. He had played in a Pro-Am. Like, this is really racking my brain here. But he played in a Pro-Am, I think it was like Cameron Smith or something. And I remember Eric asked him, it was a certain hole, and he's like, could you hit a 7-iron here? And he said, I could make it work. And it just made me think, like, because it was totally not the range for a 7-iron, but he's like, I can make it work. It just made me think how much they understand about different types of shots.
Right.
Like for us, a lot of us, we're just working on just hitting the ball straight, right? Or we're just working on hitting the ball and getting it in the air, like whatever your level is, right? But when you really achieve that higher level, you now, like, I think Tiger talks about having, I forget if there were 6 or 8 different shot types that he can hit.
Jeez.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So now not only does your 8-iron become your 150 club, it depends on the situation. If you hit a high fade, it's going to take some off of it. Or if you want to hit a low draw, I can stretch my 8-iron much further.
Yep.
And it just really amazed me. And where I had that experience was hitting like that 4-iron. A lot of times you saw me push it and hook it way left because I just didn't have that. I wasn't adept at taking that much off of it. Trying to hit a 200 club, 170 or something like that. And I ended up just getting too handsy. My hands got involved too much, whereas I really should have been focusing more on just my rotation and just rotating a little bit less intensely.
Right.
But my hands got involved, and as they closed down that club face quicker, there you saw me hooking the ball. So I learned a lot out of it.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I learned is I think it was the 15th hole. You ended up taking driver out of my bag, and it was like a 370-yard par 4, and I was forced to go with 3-wood, and I hit it well. And I normally wouldn't hit 3-wood there. I would never hit 3-wood there. I would hit a driver there. But I love how you forced me to use that 3-wood. And this goes back to some of the challenges we've been doing. Now, if you've been following us over the past couple months, we played from the tips. We played a par 3 challenge. We were just doing a bunch of different scenarios to kind of shake up our game so that we can learn different shots. And this is just sticks with that theme.
It 100% does.
And I love it. I feel like I'm getting better as a result of it.
I'm thinking of your game, and I'm thinking of those times when your shot shape with your driver is so much of a left to right, right? And there's sometimes we get up to those holes where, let's say it's all trees down the left side and it's blocked out and you can't start the ball too far left. Well, the way I saw you hitting your 3-wood today, that might be a situation. Pull out that 3-wood on the tee.
More of a straight shot.
Because you're only losing maybe 30, 40 yards hitting your... I'd rather take off 30, 40 yards and be in the fairway.
Yeah.
Whereas instead of having to play that big left to right, if you're blocked out. So, and then leaving that driver for those holes where the ball, it works right, and you can kind of let that just naturally follow the shape. But it was a learning experience, no doubt about it, but more so even important than that, it was a lot of fun. We'll have the video out for you guys soon. We're going to edit that, put it together, all the fun frills that we like to add to it. And you'll see who won. I think maybe from... hearing us, you may be able to derive who it was.
I think you mentioned it before.
Did I mention it?
You mentioned that I beat up on you.
So then
pretty
you
well.
guys, if you're listening to the pod, you get the drop on it that
you
might
get the
beat
drop
me
on
up. But But I think it's one of those things that, if nothing else, it's a new and fun and different way. We played Worst Ball recently, it's just a nightmare of a day in a lot of ways. But I was enamored with how many people were commenting and just tagging their buddies and be like, we got to try this. We got to try this. Because at the end of the day, we're out there to have fun. I mean, if there's two things you get out of a round of golf. If it's that you had fun and you learned something, I think that to me is the most important thing. I mean, that checks all the boxes for me. So this is a way you can have fun because you mix it up. We're laughing, we're having a good time with like the strategy piece of it and ribbing each other. Be like, you don't have your whatever. You know what I mean? At one point, you took my 52 and you saw me. I was struggling chipping because that's my chipping club.
Yep, that was your go-to.
Yeah, right. And which you learn there too. You learn, like we talked about so much, the importance of the short game, and just not being able to chip it close enough, and then adding an extra stroke with having an extra putt was a big thing for me.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, go out there, try it, grab one of your golf buddies, be like, let's do this. Let's play match play, and we'll play this format where I'm going to steal a club. But if 18 is too much, try it for 9.
Yeah,
but
all.
You have fun, you learn from it.
Yeah, especially if you're out there saying, guys, I'm just trying to get the ball in the fairway, let alone try these challenges. Break out of your comfort zone. Try it one day. You'll thank us.
I think any level golfer is going to learn something from it. But I'll tell you one thing. On a side note, we've kind of been checking in with our own games. My putting, I've been struggling with. Talked about it in the last episode. Funny little story is after we finished the last episode, which we record usually in the evening, I went right from there. I got my putt out, mat out, and everything. I just started working on grinding on my putting. And
how late you go into the
I went for about another hour after our podcast of
Okay.
just grinding. I actually then went and I pulled up the video we had with Kevin Sprecher, rewatched that segment to see what it was that he had showed me that I need to work on. Because that was, now you realize how long ago that was? That was in the spring. That was back in April that we did that.
Wow.
So it was the very beginning of the season. So I went back, I did that, and I worked on it. And that was just one session. And I would say I was putting a lot better today. I still missed some that I wanted to make. The greens were still a little tricky. They were a little bit slower today. A lot of greens in this area are slower because a lot of them, it's towards this type of the season, they punch them. They weren't punched here today, but they might have been just letting them grow to punch them soon.
They might be, or they might be punched already. Either way, they are in good shape here.
They're in great shape. They were just a little slow. So I missed a couple that I shouldn't have missed, but I did make more of the 8-footers and the 10-footers that I wanted, so I can build on that. And that shows me that's one practice session, one hour grind with the mat. So I'm going to make that part of my regular routine. I'm just going to work on the stroke until it starts to get a little better for me, and then I think that's where the game is won.
Well, that segues into our Twitter poll, right, Frank?
It certainly does.
So we put out there, what is the one area of your golf game that needs the most work?
One area, capital, all caps, 1. I just want to know 1 because everybody's going to hop in and they're going to say, I got a lot I got to work on.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge advocate of just taking it one step at a time. Just find one thing to work on rather than confusing yourself and work on 10 different things. So let's hear some of them, Mike.
Well, let's just go down the list. We just put this out there a couple hours ago. So just, about 15 or 20 of these responses came in. Shooting 90, getting up and down from just off the green.
Yes.
And that's something you struggled with.
And we see how many strokes. I think, yes, we could say today you took a lot of clubs off of me, but I think where you really beat me today was probably 50 yards and in.
Yes.
There were some situations where I was in a better situation than you, and your short game was just on today. Did you feel like it was on, or you feel like that's your regular game?
No, I feel like it was on. I've been much more confident with tighter lies from the fairway, 80 yards and in. And I know there's a question coming. There's one out here. Some guy who said, let's see, I think wedge play, 75 yards and in. Another one said 80 yards and in. So
80 yards and 75 yards and in. That's interesting.
A lot have struggled with that, but I have improved with it just from range work. Honestly, learning feel, learning how to sweep through the ball and take less of a divot and kind of, I call it sweep the carpet and follow through. So in my head, my pre-shot routine is sweep the carpet and follow through. Don't decelerate. Mm-hmm. And I've been finding that when I try to get cute with a 75-yard chip shot, everything goes wrong. I come up short, I chunk it, I skull it, whatever. But when I just take a nice, smooth, soft swing, sweep the carpet, follow through, I end up getting the ball up there. And you saw I put a lot into a pretty good proximity today, which led to a lot of good 2-putts.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying there is you're trusting it.
Trusting it.
Because I think a lot of things that I wasn't doing, I wasn't always trusting it. I was thinking like it's going to end up over the green or something like that. But it drilled home for me. Watching you play today drilled home for me how important that short game is, because there was a couple of situations where I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get a hole back here. And I'm like, I'm in a great position, you know, even though I didn't have my driver. Yeah. I hit my, let's say I hit my hybrid off the tee, and I was in a couple spots where I was maybe like 150 out, just in the middle of the fairway, and thinking like, okay, this should be easy from here, because you were, you know, off on the side in a bad spot, you know, pushing it with your driver or whatever it was. But then all of a sudden, here he comes. You know, Mike hits a nice wedge shot, and he puts it to within 10 feet, and I'm like, the pressure's back on me.
Back on.
But it just shows me, and it should be something that encourages a lot of golfers, because there's a lot of guys out there, maybe you're new to the game, maybe it's an age thing, you're a little bit older or whatever, and you're having trouble getting the same distance that you once were, or you're struggling learning distance. I think the thing I've seen here is that distance isn't everything.
You're right.
You know, and I've seen it before, and I've played with people twice my age who nowhere near the same distance off the tee, and maybe it takes them 2 shots to get a little bit further than where my drive is. But then all of a sudden, when we get 100 and in, they beat me to death because they're deadly.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that just shows you, like, sure, it feels really great to be able to hit the long ball, but if you want to score early on in this game, learn that short game. Learn it. You know, you'll get to hit the ball a little bit further and stuff like that, but if you can really be good from 100 yards and in, that's where, you know, 70% of the shots are taken, and that's where the scoring happens.
I totally agree with that. This next one's actually interesting, because I'm going to throw this one over to you, because this is something that you kind of like. Both Phil and Brian mentioned, Phil said concentration. Brian said mental. What do you do to get prepped, to get the mental game in check? I'm curious.
Long term, what I do, and I'm a big advocate of this. Actually, somebody had messaged me just after the round and asked me the question. He's like, I just had a terrible round. He's like, I shot 20 over, and he's like, what do I do to get bounced back from this? So when it comes to mental game, my long game for the mental game is to always try to not get discouraged with bad rounds. I didn't play well today at all, and I'm like, I've had a slippery slope in my mind before where I'll let that turn into multiple bad rounds, because I'll be thinking about the next one how badly I played, and my confidence kind of wanes. Mm-hmm. But if I can instead just say, like, those things happen, anybody has a bad day, even the guys on the PGA Tour have a bad day. You just need to, if you can focus on just learning something from it, create a learning experience rather than always playing at a deficit. I think that helps from a mental game. Other things, there's anything you can do with routine can help, especially if you find yourself someone who overthinks things. A pre-shot routine is a huge one, because if you can kind of just go through motions rather than letting your mind have to take over all the time, and sometimes it can be like going off the track, so to speak. Right. Just like, you know what I mean? So there, if you can settle back into it, I said this before on the podcast, that's why how I see with basketball, with a free throw, you have that routine, so you're not just sitting there just thinking too much about it. Don't overthink it, just do it. I think that's a big thing for mental game as well. So anything you can do with routine. I also like to put a little bit of breathing in. As part of my pre-shot routine, I like to take a deep breath. It slows everything down, which you saw me when I played bad earlier today. It was because I was rushing.
You were rushing.
So something that slows me down is what's important for my mental game.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Some other funny ones I see here. One guy said his biggest problem is not having proper drone coverage.
That's great.
We can help you with that.
Sure.
I see a lot of people here. One guy is full-time hacker. Full-time hacker. He says, depends on what day of the week it is, seriously. And other people said similar type of thing, consistency. Derek Holland says consistent driver striking. So, you know, what comes with consistency is a lot of practice.
Yep.
And I think, you know, whereas, like I said, I don't want everyone to just go out there and just do driver the whole time they're at the range. If driver is something that you need work on, then I think so. You know, go and take a lesson for just that club. Focus on just that club. Driver is an important club. It sets everything up, man. Be able to hit it well.
It definitely does. And with that, who was it? It was Mateo who tweeted driving !! And then he wrote four right. So I can definitely kind of relate to that. And one thing, just to give you a little advice, Mateo, and how I worked with it, is I just started to slow everything down. Frank, I've been pushing everything right for years. Hard slices, just not getting my hips through the ball, putting ridiculous side spin on the ball with that outside in swing, and working with some guys like Kevin Sprecher and doing the things that we've been doing. I've learned really how to kind of slow down, whether it's in my head, because I don't feel like I'm getting slow in my swing, but maybe I'm slowing down in my head, and I'm not swinging as violently through the ball, creating that spin. And you'll notice, like today, when I did miss right, it wasn't too far right.
Yeah, right.
It was maybe just in the right side rough. It wasn't that hard slice into the woods. So, Mateo, if that helps, I hope it does. Just try to slow things down. And
one benefit I would say out of that, if it's true what he's saying 4 right, that means he's got a consistent miss.
Yep. Which I had.
Right, because some other people have the inconsistent miss and you're spraying it all over the place. If you're hitting it right every time, you know that you're doing at least repeating the same motion so it can be fixed. You can work with a coach on that. But B, the short-term solution is just aim a little bit further left.
That's what Gavin taught me in Scotland.
It's a short-term solution.
Short-term.
It's something you do on the course to adjust in that day because you're not going to fix your thing in that day. I still think I'm a big advocate of going and getting a lesson.
Absolutely.
But for the short term, if your miss is consistent, and sometimes it changes from day to day. Sometimes you're missing left today. I don't know what I'm doing, but whatever. Just adapt just to get through those 18 holes.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
You know what bothers me more than a slice, right, is when I hit one dead straight left.
Yeah.
So if you notice today, you're like, hey, you're setting up for draws. Because in my head I'm saying, I'd rather hit one dead straight down the middle. I mean, a slice one right.
Yeah.
Because pulling that one at Pound Ridge, I think I hit 310 yards, dead straight left into the woods.
Yeah.
It's like the best shot of my life.
Because you were set up for that same consistent, left to right, and then it just went straight. But there's some other suggestions here. We can't get to all of them. Eric Sidewater says punch out from under the trees. Punch out under the trees from a deep rough, which tells me he's probably faced with that shot fairly often. Mm-hmm. If there's anything that's that specific, I would say the main reason would be because you don't practice that shot enough, which is true. Who goes to the range and practices a punch out from the heavy rough under the tree? It just doesn't happen. So what I would say is if you get an opportunity to practice it. One thing you can do sometimes if you're waiting on the group ahead of you, and if you're out there just doing a practice round anyway, sometimes you can find a spot like that, just drop a couple balls and just punch them out and just get the feel for it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
With experience comes confidence and everything else.
Right.
So, all right, that's a lot.
Yeah,
we wanted to go through. Like I said, it was a lot of fun doing this little steel challenge. You guys will see that video on the YouTube channel and in the Golficity app really soon. I challenge you guys to find one of your playing partners, one of your buddies, and play that with them because you will have a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun chatting about it. We had a lot of fun playing it. And again, big thanks to our host, Crystal Springs. We played Wild Turkey today, which is a challenging track. They've got everything here, all the different challenge you want, 5 or 6 different golf courses, so it's a great place. You can check out the show notes by going to golficity.com/episode 288, and we'll see everybody again next week. Mike's going to take a little nap.
Good night.
See ya.